Hello, good afternoon, good evening. There might even be a few good mornings here, depending where you are watching this from. I am here with Kyle Draper. He and I
Woo!
met, man, 5, 6 months ago, something like that, at an event. And we started talking, and I think he talked about the fact that his book was coming out soon. And so we bonded over self publishing a book. And then we started talking about content and repurposing content. And so I'm like, you have to meet my people. I need to introduce you to my world. So Kyle's a coach. He's a speaker. He's now an author and just knows a ton when it comes to social media. So Kyle, welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Jennifer, thank you for having me. And if I look distracted, it's because I'm trying to share your streams
I love it.
to all of my places. And I could not be more excited. I've already enjoyed our pre-call conversation. And
It's
so
been
I
great.
don't know what we have left to talk about, but we're going to figure this out.
Well, we can just re-talk about all those same things because I kind of wish we had recorded that because there was so much gold just in that conversation. And, that's like the secret reason why I do this. I just got like a free coaching session from Coach
Oh
Kyle.
yeah.
And one of the things I love about you is you're great when it comes to content and you're super consistent. Like
Yeah.
you are in my feed all the time. And I don't always engage because I'm always trying to play with the algorithm. And if I just watch Kyle, but I don't comment, will I
Sure.
still see him? And the answer is yes. I see you all the time. So let's start there. Like
Okay.
how do you stay so consistent with your content?
Jennifer, that's a great question. I think it's a great place to jump into. And hopefully my answer will not be what people think it will be. I think for me, the way to be most consistent is to shift the mindset that I have towards social media. Right? So most people, we jump into the world of social and the only metrics we have are how many likes did that video get? How many comments did it get? Did anybody share it? And that really becomes what we crave. Therefore, when our content doesn't get it, it causes us to regress and if we're not careful, pull back, recluse, and do nothing. And so for me, what you said is the way is what I really pay attention to is simply the fact that the shadows of social media is real. And the shadows are people are watching your content that are not engaging for whatever the reason, whether it's just because they're in a hurry or they don't want to be on my radar and end up in some sort of call list. And so people just kind of watch from afar. And then I run into them and they're like, gosh, I love watching your content. You're great. And I'm like, but I don't know who you are because I don't see your name coming through the notifications. And so the way to be most consistent is to just realize that people are watching. When you have 100 views and one comment, 99 people watched enough of that video to be considered a view, but they just didn't want you to know they were there.
Right.
And so that's really what keeps me motivated is just knowing that even on my worst day, a new client takes one view.
Mm.
Right? Any one view could be my next client. And so I just don't get caught up in the vanity metrics and I stay true to like the value I believe I'm bringing this industry, any industry through the way I am and who I am as a person. And you start stacking that up enough, right? I love the quote, Rome wasn't built in a day,
Mm.
but they were laying brick every hour.
Oh, that's
And I
good.
don't know who said it, but when I heard it, I thought, oh my gosh, that'll preach right there.
That's
And so
awesome.
that's really what it is for me.
It's so funny because one of the things that I preach all the time is that you need to control what you can control. Control the controllables. And so
Right.
you can put out great content. So to some extent you can control whether people want
Right.
to engage or whether they watch, but you can't force them to like, you can't force them to comment, you can't force them to share, but you can control how consistent you are with putting out content. So
Well,
I love
and
that.
and, and it kind of goes, there's a lot of people that like when they're working out and losing weight, getting on the scale every day puts them in a bad place. Because really, like how much is the scale going to shift in a day?
Right.
And so, a lot of people that have success would say, I know that if I eat right and do the right things, that number is going to go down. And so I'm just going to trust it and stay committed to my activities and not worry so much about, getting the data right.
Love it.
And I think that's how we have to be. But also, Jennifer, what's happening right now that I don't think most people are thinking about is what I call social proof. Social proof is because of how much data we have available to us in our devices. We don't trust anybody anymore. And we can say that we do, but if my dad, who is my best friend, if he calls me and says, "Son, mom and I went to this new restaurant. It's incredible. Y'all've got to go." I don't say, "Honey, kids, let's get in the car. Let's go. Pop said that this new restaurant's awesome." I Google it.
Yep.
And then if I start reading negative reviews and somebody found hair in their taco and the manager cussed out this family that sent their steaks back, very quickly, without even thinking consciously about it, I'm now questioning the sanity of my father because of what complete strangers are saying on the internet.
Yeah.
And if this is true about restaurants, it's also true about the way people treat us. When somebody says, "Jennifer's unbelievable. I was just at her event last month. Oh my gosh." They don't pick up the phone and call you. They go look you up.
Yeah.
And if they can't validate your awesomeness through your content, then they assume that their friend was stupid and you're not as awesome as you think you are.
Oh,
And it sucks. It's
now
not
you're
fair.
meddling. You're meddling. Why are you doing that?
I know. And but this is really like content now for me should be more about protecting my reputation than it is about getting new leads. Because there's just so many ways to get new leads right now. Our content should not be one of them because it's too important to portray the right person there. And if I want to be trustworthy, I can't deploy the same tactics that it requires to go get more leads.
So, how did you get into this social media game in the first place?
Not on purpose. I was a youth pastor in my 20s. And then I felt like I could just love and serve people better in the business world. And so I quit working at our church and I jumped into the roofing industry. And that's where I really learned sales and marketing and social media. And this is when Facebook Live just came out. And so I was on the rooftops of houses going Facebook Live for whatever reason. And so I was doing that. Through roofing, I met a lot of realtors. And so then I started a company with a friend of mine building websites for real estate agents. And through that, I realized that there was just a huge need for realtors at the time to be better at social media. And so I started learning social media to teach them how to use it. And so I taught hundreds of classes and then very quickly started getting reached out to by other companies. And I had this epiphany of like, oh my gosh, am I like really good at this? And so now for almost 6 years, I've been coaching, speaking, teaching full time. And I wrote a book a couple months ago. And so it's been a very strange journey, but it allows me to have such a unique approach to this because I'm not a nerd. I'm not a geek. I'm not super techie. I'm not brilliant. I'm a youth pastor that was a roofer that's figured out how to make this very simple and practical for people. And it's allowed me to carve out a pretty cool niche.
What I love about your content is it seems to be authentically you.
Yeah.
Like you just want to help, you just want to care. You're very commiserating with people. You're very open about your own struggles and like, I may not want to go live on video today. A little bit of goofy, like you're not saying please be someone that you're not because you're being you. And
Right.
so I imagine that's something that you talk about with your clients or to your audiences as well.
Well, yeah, because our biggest problem that nobody talks about, I guess, except for me, maybe there's a few others that talk about it. But our biggest problem, Jennifer, is we've gotten so good at compartmentalizing our lives that without realizing it, you could have friends that you cuss a lot around and friends that you don't.
Hmm.
You could have friends that you drink too much around and friends that you don't. You could have friends that you go to church with and then friends that don't know you go to church, because we can live in these compartments. And so when I show up and go, guys, you've got to be on camera more, the question you're asking yourself that you don't have an answer for is, which version of me am I supposed to prod?
Interesting.
And so I've just, over the years, I've just kind of developed this thought of like, I used to say, like, don't cuss in your videos, like, don't be political in your videos, don't be religious in your videos. But now I'm kind of under the impression that's like, if you're a psycho political person that leans all the way to the extreme of either side, be that online, because there are enough other psychos like them that will buy your thing, right? And so be you. And the moment that I really found clarity on like who I am, now I can show up sweating on a walk, and I can show up in the carpool lane and I forgot a hat and my hair's crazy and I just don't care, because that's who Kyle is.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So a lot of the people that are probably watching it, a lot of my peeps are technical. Like they're super
Yeah,
brilliant technologists. I mean, you mentioned you have a problem, like they've already solved it. Maybe not like in time, like in this moment, but
right.
they're like, oh yeah, 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 I know how to solve that. Easy peasy. But their audience is not super technical at all. Like the
Yeah.
extreme, like my poor father who can't figure out LastPass, which is about the most basic tool you can ever think of. And so, how do they maintain their authenticity of who they are and the brilliance that they have to bring to the world, and still have their audience understand what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think practically there's a couple things. If we don't if we're not careful, as we become more of the expert of something, whether we realize it or not, we kind of stop listening to people.
Mm.
And I'm just waiting for you to shut up. And then I'm going to be, and then it's like, are you done? Okay, cool. Let me fix it. That's how experts are. We don't typically ask a lot of questions once we're the expert, because we kind of assume we already know how to fix it. And so what I would say first is, for your people, they need to really start paying better attention to the questions that are being asked of them,
Mm.
because the questions being asked of us are paving the way for what people want to know. And so if I'm focusing on it, like everywhere I go, every person I meet with, like I always have a notebook of some sort, and I am taking notes actively while you're talking, because I want to be able to leave with a manuscript of what your needs and concerns were, because my past conversations become my future content.
Mm.
Okay. The second thing, which you and I talked about off air, was I was just playing around with like ChatGPT the other day, and I was writing an artificial intelligence class for realtors. Again, I'm not that smart. And so I don't even know that I fully comprehend what GPT does, how it works. And so I got on there and I just said, how would you explain artificial intelligence to a second grader?
I love it. I
And
love
the
it.
simplicity by which they laid it out, I thought, this is it. If I can teach it like this, anybody can understand. And so for a lot of your people, in the cyber world, nobody knows that world other than the people that we pay to do those things. And so ChatGPT could be a huge tool for them to really try to simplify and make practical some of the things that maybe, if left to themselves, they're going to talk over the heads of people with.
I love it. Yeah. So just saying, how would you explain cybersecurity to a second grade, medicine, if you would, to a second grader? How do you? Yeah, I love that idea, because I've been playing with a ton of ChatGPT tools and ideas and scripting and things like that. And as with anything, you get 80% of the way there, and then please make it your own. But
Right.
to have that 80% given to you is phenomenal.
I agree. We also, AI, ChatGPT, any of these, hundreds of companies that are out there now, and they triple every day with how many are available to us. It's only as good as the prompts we give it. So even last night, I'm working on some new email campaigns, and I can type in and say, as a social media expert, give me 12 prompts to write emails about in my, if my audience is cybersecurity. And now it's going to take all that data and then boom, in 10 seconds, it's going to give me what I asked for. Right. Then I can take any one of those 12 prompts and then put it back into the equation and ask for 10 additional prompts based on this one prompt. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable what we can do with this stuff. And your audience probably would understand it far more than me if they wanted to.
There's kind of this, it's a typical bell curve, right? Like we have some people that are super users and we have some that are like, I don't even have an account. And then we've got the masses in the middle, right? Who are like, I kind of use it a couple times a week. But so one thing you said before we went on the air in the green room is that you never run out of content.
Yeah.
And is that because of ChatGPT, or is there something else? Because I don't feel like I ever have enough content. So
sure.
I'm going to use this as kind of a free coaching session. So
yeah,
how do you have this giant library of content?
It's a few different things. One, it comes back to when you truly understand who your people are and how you have the ability to serve them. Inside of that, we should be able to build out hundreds of video opportunities. If we were just paying attention to my two favorite questions to teach people and to ask myself, right, are what do I get asked the most about blank? So we could just use cybersecurity as like a very broad stroke. But then you guys, I don't even know how to role play this because I don't know anything about it other than how to spell those two words. But you could then fill in the blank, what do I get asked the most about? And then go a little bit deeper into a niche inside of that and just start writing. Good questions, bad questions, dumb questions, short questions, smart questions. There's no wrong question. Because if I've ever been asked it, other people are thinking it. Then the second question.
You wish people would ask you also. Like,
sure.
What do you wish your prospects would ask you? Or
that's a great
if
question
you're at a networking event, what do you wish someone would ask you about a day in the life or cybersecurity or what it's like to run a business or whatever? Yeah.
And one of my favorite questions to ask on my podcast is, what do you wish people asked you about more often?
I like it.
And most of the time, it completely stumps people. But we all walk away from conversations going, they didn't even really ask me about what the actual problem is.
Yeah.
So they're still stuck because their questions were bad. So that's a great question. The other great question is, what are you surprised that people don't already know? So when you're having conversations, right? So I work with realtors a lot. When a realtor starts talking about earnest money, and I go, hey, Jennifer, I know I should know what that is, but like, can you just to make sure we're on the same page, can you tell me what earnest money is? My head should start going ding, 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 ding. You need to do a video about that, because if it's unclear to him, it's also unclear to others.
It's so interesting because I've been talking for probably a year and a half about sales process and why it's important that you have a sales process. And I've got talks around it and webinars around it. I've got a lead magnet around it. And I'm at an event and we open up for Q&A partway through my talk, thankfully. And this one person was brave enough to raise their hand and say, what's a sales process? And I went, oh, like here I've been, pouring all this content. And I made an assumption that, well, everyone knows what a sales process is, right? Like everyone knows what earnest money is. And so I dialed my content back and kind of translated it down to, before I talk about why you need a sales process, what is it? What is it and why is it important? And that was a leap that I made as an expert. Like, well, everyone knows this. No, everyone doesn't. And so
they don't.
I'm sure you run into the same thing in the real estate world, certainly in the social media world.
100%. It's so like, that's so true. And if we're not careful, we probably walk into most conversations 3 steps ahead of where we should have started. And people are so embarrassed that they don't want to stop you. So they just kind of let you go. And you don't even realize that you just wasted 45 minutes with that person because they started, like, you started them at a place that they haven't been yet.
Yes.
You know? But the two main reasons I never run out of content, right? Those questions are great for just raw content, in the moment content, right? That kind of stuff. But what I'm very intentional about is part of the reason I started a podcast was to just have content. So in a few weeks, we'll release episode 150 of my podcast. I stay about 8 to 10 weeks out on my podcast. So it's never been a burden to me because I'd never wake up on a Monday and I'm like, oh, shoot, the podcast is coming out Wednesday. I don't have one. And now it's a burden. It's not fun anymore. And so I just love, like you talked about, this is a personal coaching session. I just love having conversations with cool people. And so the podcast has given me thousands of pieces of video content that I don't even post half of it because I just don't think about it, but it's there. So on a day that I'm sick, I'll go, oh man, I didn't post about episode 147. I'll go grab a clip from it, post it. I'm sick, laying in bed. Nobody knows the difference. I'm also very intentional about teaching and then filming what I teach. So I was on a webinar this morning. I taught a big group of realtors in Cincinnati, one of my classes, and I recorded it. And so I have 90 minutes of content to chop up. I mean, that can be like 50 videos. And so when you're doing those things, you know, I would even tell your people, maybe you don't teach like I teach or put on events like you put on events, but you're on the phone with somebody. And so what's to keep me? So the other day, my wife got a new phone and I was supposed to trade her old phone in and I forgot. And so after I forgot and they already charged me
was that
for
forgot in air quotes?
You know, I wish I could say I did it on purpose, but I truly just forgot.
Okay.
But then
I interrupted your story, so continue.
But then after they charged me for it, I thought, I'm going to use this as another content phone. Because if you and I are on the phone, I can prop another device up or a webcam, and then you and I are just on the phone, and I'm just recording the background. And there's no infringements because you're never a part of anything.
Right.
And as long as I'm not saying your name, right, and
Sure.
and potentially outing you, that's another easy way to have content.
That's cool.
And so that's really what it is. You know, Gary Vee, you know, his big thing is document, don't create.
Yes.
Just document. What are you doing today? Like you're in cybersecurity. What the heck do you do to learn and grow, and who do you follow to get better? All of those moments are incredible opportunities to become content.
I love it. I'm telling you, people are going to be listening to this, Googling, like they're not going to prop the phone up. Like these are technologists. They're going to find like a stand or a gimbal or something.
And when y'all do, y'all let me know because y'all are already doing more research than I'm doing.
Yeah, they're going to be like on Amazon or Tech Data going, oh, look at this. It bounced from the top and it, you know, has like dampening so it won't jiggle if I bump my desk. And like they're like, we lost them. They're gone. Come back to us. Okay, so let's circle back to your book. Okay. So we talked about it early on. You're now an author, which is so cool. And the title is Rethink Everything You Know About Social Media.
That's right.
On Amazon. So what do people know about social media, or they think they know, that they need to rethink?
Everything, right? That's the in the title.
In the title, yes.
Jennifer, what it is for me is in the world of sales. So most people that need social media for their business, they didn't expect to need it when they got into their business. So nobody was like, I'm amazing at social media. I'm going to go start a business now. Some people do that now, but for most of us that aren't spring chickens anymore, we didn't get into this to have to be good at video and content and all this stuff. And so the entire framework that we see social media through is 100% about sales. 100%. And so the filter, if we're not careful, when I say, Jennifer, you need to post today, if you're not careful, the filter that you pass that thought through is, what can I post to help me make money?
Self-serving.
Right. What can I post to help my business grow? What can I post to get a new lead? Like, so the answer to that question is always nothing. There is no golden goose. There is no silver bullet. There is no proven strategy that says if you post this 100% of the time, you're going to get money back. And so the entire framework and filter by which we have ingrained in us is bad. So when I started thinking through this, I thought we truly have to rethink everything, because we were taught this poorly, and we've got to reconsider what we are doing, why we're doing it, and who is it serving. Because like you said, most of us are great at creating content that serves ourselves, and that turns us into a narcissist. And that turns us into the person that very quickly we're like, I don't know that I'm going to talk to them at the next conference, because everything they said was about themselves. And so what I try to help people understand in the book is, if we would reframe our thinking to think one simple question: does what I'm about to post allow someone to trust me more or less? Period. Very simple. And so, again, part of the reason I don't struggle with content is I'm not caught up in the minutia of, well, what's the best post to accomplish this today? No, I just go, okay, cool. I'm going to post a review about my book. Is this going to help somebody trust me more or less? If the answer is less, that doesn't mean I don't do it, but I need to take an extra second to maybe add another sentence that makes it a little less salesy and a little more human. And that's really the premise, is just helping people realize, if you would show up on the internet the same way you show up to coffee with a friend, your presence online would be a 180 from what it is today. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's about.
Can we make that a little bit less tangible? So like, what are a little more tangible? What are some of the mistakes that you see people making on social media that are like out of alignment? They're acting not in a way that they would if they were at having coffee with a friend.
The absolute biggest mistake is that most business people post when they need something. My dad and my brother own and run our roofing company, and neither one of them ever post anything until the hailstorm comes. And then all of a sudden they're posting their digital business cards on Facebook. We'd love to help you. We're here to serve. And I want to say, and I've said this to them, right? Bull crap. If you wanted to serve, you would show up more often. And so I think it just makes us look bad when, like, and they're great people, right? They're two of the best people I know. So I truly know their heart is there to serve people. But to the bystander watching online, they say, bull. That's not true. A hailstorm just came through and you're posting your business card on the internet.
Right. You don't want to help me. You want to help you.
You're here to serve yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the biggest problem that I believe that we make is our goals for social media typically revolve around what's in it for me. So that would be one. The second thing that I think we do poorly is we only show up as the business version of us. And at coffee, if you and I are having coffee right now, we may not even talk about business.
Right.
We're going to talk about our families. We're going to talk about, like, what was it like growing up where you grew up? And, oh, you have a dog. Like, what kind of dog do you have? And we'd look up and go, what? It's been like 90 minutes. Were we supposed to talk about something related to business today? Like, I don't want to miss this. We do that at coffee.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to convert that to the internet. Because again, our framework tells us, why would you talk about your dog on Facebook? That's not going to help your business grow. When that could be the absolute thing that helps your business grow, because we're all looking for those little things that help us trust people more. And weirdly enough, if you and I have the same type of dog, boom, we're in. We're in.
Well,
It can be
and
that
the
simple.
things, yeah, the things that are going on in your real life, in your off hours, are the things that make you you. And so
Right.
I've had prospects reach out to me and say, I love that you're a family person and you're a person of the faith, and you like who you are, like you were talking about authenticity. Who you are on a Sunday morning getting ready for church is the same as who you
Yeah.
are Saturday morning wearing a ball cap, which is the same as you are when you're
Right.
writing your book. And I don't have multiple versions of me. That feels so exhausting. Like you just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's with age, but at this point, I'm like, this is the only me that I have. If you don't like me, okay. Like
No,
I
I
don't, there's not
Jennifer,
another version.
I don't think it's an age thing. And again, I can only speak for me, and I'm gonna kind of speak for you. And if I'm off base, then you can just tell me that I am. But most of the people that I know that don't truly struggle with identity are people who have put their anchor into something bigger than them.
Hmm.
Right. So for me and for you, it's God. I know who he's designed me to be. I know who I'm playing for. I'm not playing for the accolades of others. Like, I'm playing to please him. And so I don't get stuck in the minutia of things that other people do. And that's what works for me. That may not be what works for everybody, but that's what helps me be grounded and always show up as the same version of Kyle. And so the people that are just being blown around in the wind, and one day you're this way and the next day you're that way, and when you're around these people you act like them, and when you're around those people you act like them, and that type of person has a really hard time getting confident on social
Mm.
media, because there's just no baseline for them to have.
Oh, so good, so good. Your youth pastor showing. I love it.
Pastor Kyle come out and get you every once in a while.
He is. He is. Okay, so what are you hearing as far as the book? Like, I know people are reaching out to you. I'm seeing it in your feed, but what
Yeah.
are, what are the kind of aha moments that people are having?
You know, what I'm shocked by is last second, literally 24 hours before we published it, my mentor read my last draft, and he was like, "What do you think about putting QR codes in it? And let those QR codes go to videos of you doing deep dives into different stories, different, problems, frustrations." And my first thought was like, dude, you're the worst. Like this, because this isn't just adding QR codes. This is, I've got to record a video that
This is
goes
a
to each QR
project.
code. And of everything that's been said, the number one by a long shot is people going, dude, the QR codes are so awesome because it allows me to go see a video of you who I already love, and you're answering questions that I had as I read, and so that's been the thing that's been talked about the most is the QR codes. And I think the biggest, I think, aside from that, that's a little bit more like tactical. So for anybody listening, you're going to write a book, you're going to write a second book, a fifth book, however many books you've read, put QR codes in it, because it allowed me to keep my book short, which I wanted it to be, because all those videos added up in words would have doubled the length of that book.
Interesting.
And so I thought it made it fun. The other big thing that I'm hearing, Jennifer, is just the realization of how much people are overthinking what social media should be. And so I'm hearing people that they're still not sure exactly what they're doing, but they're figuring out as they go. And it's just so much easier right, to move an object that's in motion than
Yes.
to get an object to change direction while it's sitting still.
Yeah.
And so many of the people that I work with, and this is probably true for you and all your clients, they want the perfect strategy before they take the first step.
Yes.
And that's not real life.
No, it
We
is
don't get
not.
to guarantee that our marriage is going to work before we say I do. Right? We've got to go out on faith knowing that it's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle, but it's going to be amazing, and we're going to pivot and change and shift and become better versions of ourselves. And that's the way we should look at social media. You're going to suck at first. That's just a reality. Right? You're a nerdy person that's really smart. You weren't naturally gifted to show up in front of a camera once a week. But that's also not the expectation that your people are going to put on you, because they know what you do for a living. And so that, that I think's been my favorite thing is just that it's the encouragement to get them in motion, because they've been so just stricken with fear for so long, handcuffed, and we're breaking chains and helping people get out there.
I love it. It's interesting. I read your book on an airplane, so I haven't visited any of the QR codes. I had
Yeah,
forgotten they were in there until you started talking about it. So now I've got to go back and like reread it and actually scan the QR codes. But you're right, they're throughout, and I cannot believe that was a last minute ad. So that
total
is so
last minute.
fun.
And the other bonus, let me tell your people this to help everybody. The other bonus to that was we contemplated, like, where do we house these videos that the QR codes are going to point to? And what we ultimately chose was we put them all in an unlisted playlist on my YouTube channel. And so my YouTube subscriber count goes up every day because you scan the first code and you go to my YouTube channel. And if you're not a subscriber, it's so easy to click that button. And I'm just so glad that we didn't put them on like a Drive or a Dropbox, because it would have taken them to a completely dead place that didn't offer additional value. And so for anybody that's writing a book or doing blogs, redirect them somewhere where you can get that additional benefit.
I love it. I mean, you leveraged social media. Like YouTube is social media. So
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll hold up your book again and give the title as well as any last minute thoughts that you want to share. Rethink everything you know about social media.
That's it.
Love it.
Yeah. Let me see. People think this should this should be my kid. Like, people be like, "What's your favorite chapter?" I'm like, dude, I don't even remember the names of half of these chapters. Like, I've moved on to the next thing. But there is one last thing from here that I want to talk about. And in chapter 5, I call it very simply just accept your issues. Social media is the most truth-telling mirror we will ever look into. That's why video is so hard for people, because I don't just see me. I see the me that fought with my daughter. I see the me that got in a drag out fight with my wife the other night. And you don't know any of that, but that's who I see. So as I'm trying to be Coach Kyle and super positive, I'm also being reminded of like all the negative things that are happening around me. And so it's why it's so important for us to just accept our issues. We're human beings that struggle, that will struggle, that have struggled, that'll never stop struggling. And it is such a lie that we've convinced ourselves that in order to be the expert of something, that also means we have to be perfect at it. And so I love to jump on social when it's necessary and go, guys, I had this all wrong. I've been coaching for 3 years that you should do this, 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 and this. And I just realized there's a better way. But most people will never give the better way because it would require them to say they were wrong first. And so the faster we can accept our issues, it's unbelievable what happens for our ability to show up online.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and just pouring on value. I had no doubt that you would. That's the way you always are.
Of course.
I so appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having
Absolutely.
me.
Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.